Now, oftentimes on the show, we talk about how immensely spineless the Democrats are, how they're basically a bunch of jellyfish, especially Democratic leadership, willing to kowtow to Trump, willing to try to do bipartisanship and negotiation, come hell or high water, despite the seriousness of the issue in question. Well, there's also another piece to this puzzle, which is that for as spineless Democrats are, I'm not sure I've ever met a more cucked bunch than Republican politicians. And the reason I say that is because literally anybody off the record will tell you, hey, all of these Republican politicians in D.C., they know that Trump is crazy. They know he's a psychopath. They know he's a sociopath. They know he's a madman. They know his ego is colossal. They know how narcissistic he is. They know how dangerous he is. They know how authoritarian he is. They know how dumb he is. All those things are true. They'll all tell you that. And they're all low-key sort of furious that their political future depends on this man, right? But you would think in a scenario like we're witnessing right now where everything's going to shit, some of them would have the common sense to be like, you know what? Sort of fuck him and the horse he rode in on. Here's where he's wrong, and I'm going to take a stand. But no. As I said, they are the most cucked group of people in the country. They're the most cucked group of people in the country. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And they managed to be even more spineless than the Democrats. And here I have a perfect example of that. This is a story that literally none of the Republican politicians wanted you to hear. Literally none of them wanted you to hear this. So as you all know, the other day, Chuck Schumer folded like a cheap lawn chair and said to Trump and MAGA, go ahead, man. Here, we're not gonna block your continuing resolution, your stopgap bill, which wasn't even really a CR because it had more conservative things in it than what would have been in a normal CR. But go ahead, we're gonna let it slide. Democrats were furious about that. The base is in revolt over that. Because basically this was your one opportunity to fight back against Doge, fight back against Elon, fight back against Trump and this insanity. But in this CR, listen to this. Republicans in Congress removing their own ability to undo Trump's tariffs in order to avoid taking tough votes on them. He's driving us off a cliff, and their reaction is to handcuff themselves so they can't grab the wheel. The party has become a rotten cult of personality. So here, let me read you this. House Republican leaders on Tuesday quietly moved to shield their members from having to vote on whether to end President Trump's tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China, tucking language into a procedural measure that effectively removed their chamber's ability to undo the levies. The maneuver was a tacit acknowledgement of how politically toxic the issue had become for their party, and another example of how the all-Republican Congress is ceding its power to the executive branch. In this case, Republican leaders did so using a particularly unusual contortion. They essentially declared the rest of the year one long day, nullifying a law that allows the House and Senate to jointly put an end to a disaster declared by the president. House Democrats had planned to force a vote on resolutions to end the tariffs on Mexico and Canada, a move allowed under the National Emergencies Act, which provides a mechanism for Congress to terminate an emergency like the one Mr. Trump declared when he imposed the tariffs on February 1st. So do you understand what happened here? Trump says, I'm doing all these tariffs, and Congress doesn't get a say because this is an emergency. I, the president, am declaring an emergency. So here's the tariffs on Mexico, here's the tariffs on Canada, here's the tariffs on China. And then what the Democrats did is they looked at the legislation and they said, okay, he can do that, but we could also demand a vote within 15 days where we can say the emergency's over and we're going to roll back the tariffs, right? And they were planning on doing that. Republicans didn't want to be on the record and vote against Trump's tariffs. So what they did is they slipped into this. Oh, by the way, the rest of 2025 is actually one long day, so we'll never get to vote to roll back these tariffs. So let's leave it all in the ball in Trump's court and let him do whatever he wants. Well, guys, guess what? We're witnessing the fruits of what he wants. We're seeing the stock market is collapsing day in and day out. He put the tariffs on, he took the tariffs off. He put the tariffs on, he took the tariffs off. The market is collapsing because there's zero stability, zero certainty about the future. Investors are running scared. And then the other thing is there's probably an element of corruption here and insider trading and betting on the market to fall, shorting the market so Trump and his robber baron buddies can make money right before he rolls the tariffs back and expects everything to be okay. Well, it's all fucking catching up. The Republican Party views themselves as the party of Ronald Reagan. One of Ronald Reagan's top issues was so-called free trade, anti-protectionism. Donald Trump is issuing in insane levels of protectionism, where he's doing universal tariffs across the board, which is just economic suicide. And the party of Reagan, which sucked off free trade for a generation, is now like, bro, we're not going to stand up for free trade and vote for free trade. In fact, what we're going to do is handcuff ourselves behind our own backs and just say, Mr. Trump, you make all the decisions. We love you, dear. Look at how pathetic this is. Look at how disgusting this is. Even on an issue where it wasn't that long ago, bro. You go back to 2015, 2016, and listen to any Republican talk about tariffs, talk about protectionism, and talk about free trade. Every one of them said the same shit. Let's do maximal free trade in every way, shape, and form. Now, they all flip on a dime. Why? Because the cult leader says, you got to do this. And even though they know better, they say, shit, let me just dodge accountability completely and say, oh, look, we don't have the ability to vote on this to overturn it because, tee-hee-hee, we made the rest of 2025 one long day. Tee-hee-hee. Does it get any more humiliating than this? And watch. They will refuse to come out and speak out against anything he does. Look, I told you guys this before, but the reality is these politicians need to be more afraid of the resistance than they are of MAGA. And until we hit that tipping point, they will continue to act like this. Right now, they fear more a couple mean Trump tweets and some angry MAGA people showing up at their house. They fear that more. Well, we're in the process of trying to reverse that with these town halls, where anybody and everybody, Democrat, Independent, Republican, is reaming Republicans and ripping them a new asshole because of just how much they've cucked themselves to Trump, just how much Elon Musk is slashing the regulatory state, slashing healthcare, Social Security, etc. So there's going to be a tipping point where that reverses and they go, shit, I'm more scared of the resistance. And then you'll see them stand up to Trump. But until we get to that point, they're coasting off the momentum of the entire Trump era now. And they feel like he really is Teflon. There's nothing we can do to fight back. And they are sort of locking themselves in to unending support of the psychopath at his worst, most manic moment. So let history judge this accordingly, bro. That as of right now, when he said I could shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and get away with it, as of right now, not a single Republican in Congress, except maybe Thomas Massie, would say, hey man, I'm against that. I'm against that. So from now on, spare me your behind the scenes, off the record, oh, they're actually really upset with him and they know how terrible he is. Fucking spare me. Unless you're going to say something publicly, you can fuck right the fuck off. Right? Because this is giving away power that we could have averted a market catastrophe if they just had the balls to be like, no, we still agree with Reagan. We don't agree with you, Trump. We're going to say no universal tariffs. We're going to take away the emergency declaration. Because also, by the way, really, there's an emergency with Canada and Mexico? Because, oh my God, there was like an ounce of fentanyl that got in the country. Shut the fuck up. This is so fake. It's all so fake. There's no fucking emergency. You made it up. Just like he said, oh, we're using the Alien Enemies Act of 1789 to deport Venezuelans. Meanwhile, you don't have a declaration of war with Venezuela. You can't use this wartime authority. He's like, I don't care. We're using it. Can you even try to make sense? No, they're going full authoritarian, full fascist, and they're not even bothering to come up with reasonable cover stories, right? So let me give you one more while we're talking about this here. Look at what Trump came out and said. The pardons that sleepy Joe Biden gave to the unselect committee of political thugs and many others are hereby declared void, vacant, and of no further force or effect because of the fact that they were done by auto pen. In other words, Joe Biden did not sign them, but more importantly, he did not know anything about them. The necessary pardoning documents were not explained to or approved by Biden. He knew nothing about them, and the people that did may have committed a crime. So what he's saying is all the people on the January 6th committee, all the people that Biden pardoned his last couple days in office, he goes, I'm not accepting that. I'm not abiding by that. I'm going to go after these people, and there's nothing they can do to stop me. That's what he's saying. He says, therefore, those on the unselect committee who destroyed and deleted all evidence, this is all made up, by the way, obtained during their 2-year witch hunt on me, and many other innocent people should fully understand that they are subject to investigation at the highest level. The fact is, they were probably responsible for the documents that were signed on their behalf without the knowledge or consent of the worst president in the history of our country, crooked Joe Biden. I love how he still goes after Biden and calls him the worst president in the history of our country, as he's also exonerating him and saying, well, obviously Biden didn't do this. This wasn't him. This was the people around him. Which is it? What he's saying here is I am declaring pardons from the previous administration null and void based on what authority? Based on Dickie McGee's acts. Nothing. Zip. Zilch. Nada. There's not even a stretch of a legal argument to say, yeah, this makes sense. But again, as you're about to see, there will not be a single Republican who says, he crossed the line. Because guess what? If this goes to court, what happens? Literally the first court that sees it, I don't care if it's a MAGA judge. They'll be like, yeah, you can't do this. They throw it out, right? But now we're at the point, ladies and gentlemen, where Trump might say, I know that the courts are going to throw it out. I don't care. He could call some U.S. Marshal into his office that is loyal to him in a sycophantic way, and he could say, I want you to go arrest Adam Kinzinger. I'm going to lock him up. And then they go do that, and then everybody's like, what the fuck? And you go to the courts, and the courts are like, you got to free Adam Kinzinger. And he's like, disagree. This is where we're at. This is what I need everybody to understand. He's got fucking gulags. He's sending American citizens and green card holders, permanent legal residents. He's declaring their Tren de Aragua based on zero fucking evidence and shipping them to an El Salvadorian supermax prison, which is basically a slave labor camp. No due process, no habeas corpus, not allowing the lawyers to see them, no way of getting out of there. This is what he's doing. And by him announcing this, again, the thing that scares me about it is I can absolutely see that even though the courts are going to side with the correct position, he's just going to say, I don't care, arrest Adam Kinzinger anyway, and even if the court says I can't do it, they can't stop me because he's already locked up and I'm not fucking letting him go. Political prisoners, gulags. This is what we're talking about. This is where we're at. Because they're already doing it with pro-Palestine protesters. They're already deporting 10-year-old girls with cancer who are recovering. They're already deporting surgeons. They literally tortured a green card holder in New Hampshire, a German who's a green card holder, permanent legal resident here in New Hampshire, tortured him. This is what we're witnessing. This is what we're seeing. And again, I want to reiterate, in the same way, they took away their own power to remove the tariffs. Not a single one is going to speak up here and say the obvious point about this. There's no legal authority, not even a stretch of an argument. This is wildly authoritarian and fascist and unconstitutional and illegal. And, I mean, again, just try to put the shoe on the other foot for 1 second. Just imagine a Democratic president did this, right? Imagine a Democratic president did this. Some Republican pardon some other Republican hack, and then Biden gets in there and goes, I don't care, I'm throwing those out, let's arrest those people anyway, right? Let's investigate them again, let's arrest them. They would be screaming from the top of their lungs that this guy thinks he's a fucking king and a dictator and an emperor, right? But Trump does it, and you won't get a peep of disagreement, not the tiniest bit of disagreement. Hear me now, quote me later. It happened 58 times already, and it's going to happen 1,058 more. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.